Fam, last section real quickly. I just want to talk about this because I got to go in a little bit. We've been around people who've gone in marches and shut down the freeways. And now we would be told what that's supposed to do. It's supposed to jolt or aggravate those people so much that they understand what it's like, what the people in Palestine are going through. These are pro-Palestinians today that went onto the freeway in L.A. Some of them are still wearing their mask on outside, but they went on there. Sorry, I had to take that little dip. But they go out there and they shut down the freeway, and that really hurts the common man who's trying to get around. Right? I don't know how you feel about this, but I'm not for this type of protest anymore. If there's any protest, I want power to feel scared. I want to show up where there's power, at Chuck Schumer's house, or in front of the White House, or in front of Congress, or any of that. For me, I think that the most effective way is to make sure that those people who are in charge are scared. And when we do these things now, when we go onto the freeway and we shut it down, we frustrate our common working man, our common neighbor. And I don't think that's the most effective. So I wish they would stop doing this. I understood it at one point, but now people have hit a breaking point. I just want you to watch this video, fam, and then we'll get your opinion on is this effective or is it counterproductive? Go ahead, Oz. So, fam, some people were screaming that there were kids in buses that were crying. There were people trying to get to work. There was a guy on parole trying to, do his thing. Otherwise, he had to go back to jail. We see this happening now, fam. We know the people who used to do this, right? Like, I'm surprised we didn't notice anybody over there. I think they got a whole new crop of people. But I mean, your thoughts on whether you think this is working or not? Or if this is more. I think it's more counterproductive now. And we should be concentrating on showing up at power's doorstep. Go ahead.
I mean, it can bother people to talk about what is happening. I think it can cause that. That's why people do it, because they want to shake people who are completely asleep. Like you said, they're just walking zombies, and jolt them awake. However, is it the most productive thing? No. I would say the most productive thing is to what some protesters did is go after the shipments to Israel. They were stopping and the Bay Area ships that were going to go
that was awesome.
Places to go after the defense manufacturers that are, of course, sending these weapons to Israel, to go after politicians, which is much more difficult, that are supposedly making decisions, and even protesting. Even though we've seen thousands and hundreds of thousands of people protest in the United States for Palestinian lives and against, the genocide, what does it do? At the end of the day, you still have billions going to Israel, billions going to Ukraine. What are these protests doing? What mechanisms are after the protests? And I'm not diminishing the protests at all, or people who are doing anything they can because they're frustrated and they want to do something. And I feel that there's, there's a sense of what can we do? What can we do? You have to attack the levers of power. You're absolutely right. It's the most effective way. And it's not really even the politicians, because these are basically narrative managers at this point. People like Chuck Schumer, they're just playing theater right now, especially because the elections are coming up. So they're all in their positions, in their roles right now. It's more of really the mechanism of power, the defense industry, the military industrial complex. You have to attack the intelligence apparatus. How you do that? Well, there needs to be organization in order to do that, right? Because they're pretty much leached onto every facet of our government. the deep state. And that's the way, honestly, because politicians, again, they're just puppets at this point. Joe Biden isn't, making any decisions here. You have Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, you have John Kirby, you have all of these people that are actually doing things. And so I think that's where it's at. It's really doing something that threatens them in a way. And this is, again, my favorite quote from V for Vendetta. Governments, people shouldn't be afraid of their government. Government should be afraid of their people. And it applies only to certain times when you come to a situation in your government where you're literally, the surveillance state is expanding, when you have no rights. And so that's where I think the United States is at, honestly.
Some people put down, Charity said, Pasta, I think the better question to ask is how can we come together as working people and help one another so that we can accomplish the goal of bettering our lives for the better? Absolutely. Thank you, Charity S, for the comment. DC says it's been pretty successful psyop to make people think wearing a mask is uncool universally when trying to protect your identity at demonstration is still pretty important and truly for one's own safety. Yeah, that is true that some people are trying to do that, but believe you me, there are a lot of people out there who are wearing their masks because they're afraid of COVID. We know those people out there. We know them personally. But a great point to make as well. And thank you to the Trailer Park Pundit, Shanda Master, for hanging on out over there too as well.